All right, people. Hello. Welcome back to another stream. Let's roll into this thing, shall we? All right. This is GVS. I thank you for being here. Today's date is May 30th. Um, we got a few things to talk about. Sorry, we're a little late to the usual stream and kind of stuff. I had to get a few things prepared, write out a little bit of a script. You know how it is. But there's been a lot of news lately going on in the sports world, and so I thought I'd cover it because we got a few things that we can cover today. So I was thinking, let's talk about like some college football, and then we'll go down. We'll talk a little bit about the MLB, the NBA, a little bit of the NFL, and then we'll finish off with the NHL because that's probably what I can talk about the most, and that's probably the most that I know about. Because the NHL, I would say right now, compared to the other major sports, I would say probably the NHL right now is the hottest. Because we got a Stanley Cup final coming up. Um, that's going to be next week. We have one team in the NBA Finals already, which is the Oklahoma City Thunder. We're going to wait on the Pacers and the Knicks because that game ended yesterday. I will be talking a little bit about that one, but then the other reason why I'm doing like kind of a day stream right now, even though it's well past noon, um, is there's not very many big sports today. There's not very many big sports games. What would be, Game 6 between Carolina and Florida. Carolina did win the other day, so that game's not tonight. Same with the T Wolves and the Thunder. So let's just jump into it. One thing that I want to talk about, the biggest story going on right now, there are a couple stories in college football, and one of the things that I want to just talk about is Coach Leach, but then also the potential 16 team playoff format. And so let's jump into this. All right, so we saw yesterday there was some news that was posted on how Coach Leach is now eligible for the Coaching Hall of Fame. I don't know if it's with the NCAA or maybe it's just like a collective or something, but I think it's pretty cool that he has the ability to coach, like be able to receive accolades for his coaching accomplishments, and be able to make it in that coaching ring of honor. And those who were, Texas Tech fans, they know about him. Those who were, Wazoo fans, he tore it up with Gardner Minshew. And I think in the later part of his career, he was at Mississippi State, if I'm not mistaken. So he was a Bulldog. And I think there was a couple other places that he went, but like, I think he's a unique coach. He's one of one. And just kind of like some of the funny quotes that he's had. Like if you don't know about Coach Leach, like go look up some of the funny like quotes that he has. I think too, because the qualification I believe was you have to have a 600 win record, like .600. I think that was the qualification, and I think he had like a .589 or something like that. Like he just missed it by that much. But then I believe they lowered the standard for him, which is good, which is really cool. Now, I will say, I think with cases like this, it's great. But then also, too, I don't think winning records should really have an indicator to get into the Hall of Fame. I know that might be like a hot take because it's like, no, obviously we're not going to send whoever in there, they only had a 400 win record or something like that. But like I think with Hall of Fames like this, definitely have a case by case study, and so I'm glad that they made the right choice to put him there because he is one of one. I mean, he had some pretty big upsets as a head coach. He got some players to the NFL, and so I think it's a cool accomplishment, and so yeah, that's honestly my thoughts on that. Um, so then the other thing with the 16 team playoff format, this one comes out from I think it was 2 days ago. 2 days ago, I think this broke when they released the NCAA, no, college football 26, like cover art, like for the cover of the game. And then, I mean, we've known about how now what they're going to do with college football is they're going to do a straight 12 seeding. Like, there's not going to be any automatic bid. Well, there will be automatic bids, but like, just because you win the Big 12, just because you win the ACC, doesn't mean you're guaranteed a top four first round bye. It's just going to be straight seeding, which I think is good in a way. And like I've already made my thoughts and my assumptions on how if they did a straight seeding this past season, outcome probably would have still been the same. Ohio State still probably would have won the national championship, and they probably would have been playing Oregon or Notre Dame either way, because that's just kind of how the bracket played out. Excuse me. But then when you look, the thing, what's going on with this six team is Lane Kiffin was he made some opinions on how like, oh, we should extend the playoff, and it's like, okay, I get where you're coming from. We should also win 10 games. We shouldn't be losing 3, 4 games, because it's kind of like March Madness where the second, and I don't know if it was Paul Feinbaum or if it was like other sports analysts who have said it, is the second that you extended, there will be teams 13, 14, and 15 who keep complaining, and then you're going to want to extend it a little more, which I totally get that. But at the same time, as cool as it might be, in the revenue just skyrocketing of, look at this, we have a 16 team playoff. The truth is, yeah, it's fun to throw Ole Miss in there, throw Miami in there, an Alabama team, maybe a Power 5 team like a Boise State or San Diego State. Like, let's say San Diego State had one loss, you know, they lost to Boise State in the Mountain West. So we have an undefeated Boise State and a one-loss San Diego State. Like, as fun as it is to throw those teams in there, the truth is San Diego State's not going to match up against a 3-loss Bama team. They're not going to match up against a 2-loss Oklahoma team, you know, a 2-loss Clemson team, just because the level of like there is a level and there is a difference, and it comes with recruitment and it comes with just like player talent. And so, as cool as it might sound to, okay, we're going to extend the college playoff, we're going to get more teams, I think in the end, we're going to end up like how we were kind of when Cincinnati ran into Alabama, or last year where Penn State just, okay, you stop Ashton Jeanty, we basically turn Boise State one-dimensional. And it's not that these smaller schools don't have the talent to do it, because there will be years where, Western Michigan, for example, or Tulane, when Tulane in the Cotton Bowl beat Heisman winner Caleb Williams and the USC Trojans. There will be years like that, okay? But what about the other years where, yeah, we had a 10-2 LSU matchup against a undefeated Utah State team, and Utah State didn't. They just had no shot. Boise State had no shot, or even within their own divisions. Like if a 9-win Vanderbilt team gets in, and then they got to go play a 2-loss Michigan team. I think out of Vanderbilt and Michigan, I think we know who win. And this isn't just name and brand recognition. I think it's just the more you expand it, the more like it'll still narrow down to, okay, these are who the best 4 teams are. These are who the best 8 teams are. And so I think originally from the get-go, I think 12 was the sweet spot, but realistically speaking, there was nothing wrong. Well, actually, no, there were problems with the top 4, because if you have Notre Dame go undefeated, there's one automatic bid. But then you have an undefeated Pac-12, undefeated Big 12, undefeated ACC, SEC, and Big 10. That's 5 teams, not including Notre Dame. If they went undefeated, that's 6 teams you're trying to fit into 4 spots. So it eventually would have come to a head where, okay, we got to figure out. So I think, okay, the Pac-12 has become its own thing, and we have seen what has happened. Teams have moved out of the conference. But I think that sweet spot for, how many playoff teams should there be? I think 8 would have been a sweet spot. Give no teams a bye, but have the conference winners be, typically the top 5 teams, because at the time Pac-12 was still a thing. But have the Big Ten winner, because usually at the end, the Big Ten winner probably only has 1 loss, or the SEC winner usually only has 1 loss. They'll be the number 1 overall because of how their schedule played out. But so you have 4 or 5 automatic bids, and then who the final remaining best 3 teams, best 4 teams are in that. It would be, if Notre Dame had one of those years where they only had 1 loss or went undefeated, or you had a really good 2-loss SEC team, whether it's Georgia, Bama, LSU, who lost in the SEC championship, or we have a one-loss Boise State team. Like this last year, it would have been Boise State or Arizona State, where it's like, let's put one of these teams in. So I think 8 would have been kind of the magic, but maybe, 12 is perfectly fine where these are the best teams. We know they're the best teams, and I think, yeah, the second you add more teams, the chance of having TCU versus Georgia type of blowouts, it's gonna happen. I mean, and I think that's the last thing college football needs to see and would want to see is a situation like the Orange Bowl a handful of years back. Now I know there were a lot of NFL guys on Florida's team that sat because they had declared for the draft, but Florida versus Georgia, that game could have been so much better, but instead it turned into a 63-3 blowout, something like that. It was one of the worst blowouts. There was the Cincinnati versus Bama game that was a terrible blowout. There was TCU versus Georgia, Michigan State versus Alabama, handful of years back. But I think when you open the door to allow more teams in with 16 teams, that would be letting in 4-loss and 3-loss teams. And I'll be honest, let's look at this past season. Would a 3-loss Alabama team, because Alabama would have had to pair up against maybe Georgia, Oregon, Arizona State, or Boise State with how the seedings were and stuff, or Notre Dame. Would that game be as entertaining when we know Oregon probably would have steamrolled Bama just with how Bama was playing last year, especially towards the end of the season. But again, I think 12 is that sweet spot where it does make sense because, typically teams that are still rolling by that point towards the end of the season, we know they're the best teams. We know the best teams going into the playoff with the final 12 teams. We know the best teams were Ohio State, Oregon, Arizona State, Notre Dame. Boise State definitely deserved to be there. Were they huge underdogs? Yes. And then I would throw Penn State up there too. So 6. Like Tennessee, we knew would be a long shot. SMU, we knew would be a long shot. Clemson, we knew would be a long shot. So that's just my thoughts on that. Where I think the committee got it right with 12 teams. I think who the committee put in was right. Would it have been interesting if they put Miami in over SMU? Who knows what would have happened? But I think the outcome still would have been the same. And even if you expanded just a little bit bigger, put 4 more teams in, Ohio State's still winning the national championship. They are. So that's my thoughts on that and the 16 teams. Okay, let me give a swig here real quick, and then we'll move into the MLB. All right, some big news out of the MLB is Mike Trout. So Mike Trout's been dealing with some injuries, and he's officially back today from IL. And we have seen the Angels and how they've done this season, where when Mike Trout's playing, they're really good. There was at one point in the middle of April where they were good, but then the second he gets injured in IL, they just plummet. But he can be active as early as today. And then some other big news that happened too was the Dodgers are getting a closer from the Reds. I wrote that down, Diaz, and I think that tremendously improves and helps the Dodgers bullpen, but also just roster as a whole, because we know with Shohei, Freddie, Mookie, and all their pitchers and stuff who's right there, like the Dodgers are the team to beat. And we know in the NL, the Dodgers will be the team to beat. We'll see who has the hot bats once we get into September and October. Who knows if the Phillies have hot bats? What about the Mets? What about the Braves? We don't know this now because, again, we still have to get there and get to that point of the season. But I think with the bullpen's going to be a big thing when we get to the playoffs. And I think the Dodgers acquiring another closer from the Reds, I think it's a big move. And I think it's definitely going to help them in the postseason if the Dodgers are playing against the Brewers or the Cardinals or whoever it might be. So that definitely helps. And then the other, because there was no big sports games tonight, I was looking through, okay, our game slate today with the MLB. Some of the bigger games today, and the biggest one we have, I wrote it down, was Yankees and Dodgers. And so we'll see how that game goes. I might give a post game reaction to how that one ends, because say it's a World Series rematch, and usually, typically, when the top three teams in the league, I know the Cubbies are pretty hot right now. I know who else is good right now. Dodgers. Um, you could throw Padres up there too, but like usually when the top teams in the division, but also in the top three teams, top four teams in the NL or the AL, whenever they get together, sometimes those games can be really good. And so I think, yeah, when the Padres and the Dodgers get together, or like, let me look here. Let's see. Let's check some standings here. I haven't looked at the standings in a very long time, so this might come to a surprise here. But like, okay, if the I didn't know the Rays were in the East. Well, I didn't know the Rays were number 2 in the East. Last time I checked, the Red Sox were. It was Yankees and Red Sox. So yeah, when the Yankees and the Red Sox get together, like that's going to be a good one. Okay, apparently the Phillies are number 1 in the NL. Let's go, baby. Tigers are number 1 in the AL. So yeah, like if the Tigers and the Phillies got together, or the Tigers and the Cubs, Tigers and the Dodgers, it'd be a good series. You know, the Cubs getting together with the Yankees or the Mariners. Like usually the top 3 teams, like yeah, when they play each other, these games have the potential to be very entertaining, and good series. So, considering it's in LA, yeah, Dodgers at Yankees, I'll take the Dodgers. Why not? A little bit of Friday night magic. You know, maybe a little walk off. Who knows? But so that's my thoughts on the MLB. What we got today. Other stuff. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the Knicks. I didn't get to give a post game reaction to yesterday's game, and I'll admit the reason why is because I didn't watch it. I was too busy watching the Oilers absolutely just whack the Stars, and the Stars having no answers, and the Stars being the Stars, and having all their late game troubles and early game troubles where the Stars go into another postseason with a lot of questions. So the fact that the Knicks 4-6, I missed out. I do know that Brunson had like 30 plus. I think him and Cat had a big game, and there was a fun stat where like this is the first tandem since Shaq and Kobe who have had these many points in a playoff game. Now, do I think Brunson and Cat are comparable to Shaq and Kobe? I'll let you answer it yourself. I think we know my answer, but I think like we could probably start to make those comparisons. But here's the thing: if we start to make those comparisons, the only one that equals to making that comparison is you gotta win. Simply put, you got to win rings. We can't be comparing Brunson and Cat to Shaq and Kobe if they can't even get to the NBA Finals. You see what I mean? But I think with them forcing another Game 6, it puts a lot of pressure on the Pacers. And I don't know if I don't know. They're like, I think the Pacers can go home and yes, get a home win and secure a home court win to get to the finals against the Thunder. But we'll just have to see, because there's kind of a different feeling when you took a 3-1 lead, you know, and out of the last 3 games, the Knicks have won 2 because you were up 2-0, and now it's 3-2. Like you know, in the last 3 games, because every game's a little different thing with kind of momentum and how a series goes ups and downs. But like I just kind of feel the Knicks have re-grabbed momentum of this series, where if the Pacers just took full advantage of having a 3-1 lead and did what they did to Cleveland, did what they did to Milwaukee, and beat them in 5, okay, they're going to play the Thunder. But I think not winning in Madison Square Garden and leaving the door open, I think there's a chance the Knicks can come back. I really do. Like, we haven't seen a 3-1 comeback in a while. And I think just with who the Knicks are, like, I know it's hard to say because they're down 3-2 in this series. I do think the Knicks, and it's a little bit of the Nova, you know, in me. I like how there's a lot of Villanova players over there. But I do think the Knicks have a shot. And I do think the Knicks are a better team. Even though the record doesn't speak for it and they're down in this series. And Pacers might come back home for Game 6 and just blow them out of the water, and they end up going and playing the Thunder. But that's my thoughts on that. I think we'll just see. They left the door open. We'll just see what. Yeah, let me know, guys. Do you think the Knicks can get this thing to 7? Because after blowing a 3-1 lead, this going back to Madison Square Garden for Game 7, winner take all. There's parts of me that think, yeah, the ball's going to bounce the right way for the Knicks. You know, as Brunson's throwing up a prayer at the end of the game, it's going to go in. I don't know, but again, could be totally wrong. We'll just see. We'll just see. That's my thoughts on that. Okay, let me take a little swig again. Some other news from the NBA. Some other things that I wanted to write down and talk about were okay. There's been a stat that's going out there about how these Thunder, like it might feel familiar, the sheer dominance that Oklahoma City has had, because it's very comparable to Chicago, and it's very comparable to what Golden State was doing a couple years back with the Splash Brothers, with and without KD. But I think my thoughts on it are it's very easy to go make comparisons and how, okay, this Thunder team, it's a young team. They got draft picks. They got future. Like, this is the team. This is the next dynasty. Not so fast, my friends. To quote Lee Corso, I think what is in the Thunder's way, I would say, is the Thunder, and it's kind of what was in the way with the last core nucleus of the Thunder with KD, Russ, Harden. Now, do I think the Thunder are going to win the championship this year? Very well, yeah. Like, they have a pretty damn good team. But the thing with the Thunder is, and when you look at those stats and look at the comparisons of, you know, we haven't had this team win this many games since the Bulls and since the Warriors and stuff. I feel like there's context to it, and there's context to it also, and I think that context is with the regular season. And I would like to take a little deep dive into this and look at it too. Once it's all said and done in the off season and stuff, you know, after they've won, is we live in a different era and generation of the NBA where out of these wins, yes, you won a lot. You secured the number 1 overall seed in the West. How many of these games that you won, how many were the star players for the other team sitting? Like, I remember one game, like, because they played the Lakers 2 out of 3 games. And I remember in one of them, either Luka or LeBron was injured, and they won one of those. And then they lost one, too, because they split 1-1 with the Lakers there. But, like, I'm looking where, what if in the middle of November or December when they're playing the Bucks, Dame has something wrong with his hammy, or Giannis is out with, you know, an ankle or something like that. And so, as impressive as it is with how many wins they got, there's parts of me that feel like they got this many wins, but how many of these wins against, like, top teams, like, what if they played the Knicks in the regular season, but Mikal Bridges was sitting out, or Cat was sitting out? What if they played the Sixers? And we all know this because every team that plays the Sixers knew this. Paul George was sitting for how long? Joel Embiid was out for how long? And so I'm kind of, with records now, as we move forward with the NBA, and we look at how well they do, how many wins they have, let's start comparing, is with how many, with the load toll that, like, these players get, there's a lot of games where a lot of big names, they sit some of these games. And I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong, but, like, it's easier. And I think this is what surprises us with the Indiana Pacers, is what if their record and their seeding didn't say the full story, where, okay, they lost this many games and were this low on the totem, you know, in the final overall seedings, because what if Naismith was out for X amount of games? What if Halliburton was out for X amount of games? Siakam, but we don't remember. Does that make sense? I know it might sound like a little, you know, okay, where are you going with this? I'm just saying it in the approach of, you look at the Warriors, when the Warriors won all those games, they weren't sitting too often. Like, when the Warriors went, I believe it was 24-0, and then they lost the 25th game, or when they won all those games and only lost 9 games back in 2016. How many of those games were Curry sitting, Klay Thompson sitting? So that's where I make the comparison, and it's not to diminish what the Thunder have going, and it's not to say, oh, we can't compare the Thunder to the Bulls. We can't compare the Thunder to the Warriors. It feels, oh, this is a mockery. It's just comparing eras. Like, I don't feel like, and maybe they were, and I don't know this, but like, were the Warriors sitting out as many games? Were the Bulls sitting out as many games when they were winning all these games? Or is Jordan getting his guys together and they're like, hell, I don't give a shit if we're playing back-to-backs. We got to play the Sacramento Kings and then fly across country, go play the Knicks. All of us are playing in every single one of these games. So I don't know. That's something I can look into a little bit deeper. But I think the comparisons can be there. But let's look at it a little deeper, because load management has definitely become an issue in the NBA. And I think it'll eventually fix itself. But that's just my thoughts on that. And then the last story in the NBA, we got some Zion Williams stuff, and not suitable for YouTube, and so I'm not going to make any comments on it until further notice and until we hear some further stuff that's going on, just because we've been talking about the potential of Zion and potential of what he could do and what he could become. A lot of it's been issues with his weight and how, like, oh, he's injured because he's not conditioned. And then we have this story breaking where it's like, oh, okay. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything on it till we hear further. That's just my thoughts on that. All right, now let me grab a swig and let's roll into the NHL. Actually, no. Let's talk about the NFL. Actually, because there is one. Well, there's two. The two stories that are going in the NFL right now. Number one is everybody's up in arms about whenever Aaron Rodgers is going to decide to sign on the dotted line playing for the Steelers. There's that one. I still think that Rodgers is going to be a Steeler, but again, it's up in the air. Like, it really is. We know he's not going to sign anywhere until after OTAs. But again, I'm not holding my breath. I'm really not. Like, if the dude retires, he retires. Like, I'm not too offended by it. As for now, it's Mason Rudolph and it's Will Howard. And we know the future is going to be Will Howard. So then when we hear those little audio clips of, like, Terry Bradshaw talking about, stay in California, on all this and stuff because, he lives in Malibu and stuff. It's like, yeah, but then what happens when he does sign? You know what I mean? Like, because I still think Rodgers probably has another... like, if he wants to fart around and have like a Brady year where like he just plays like dog shit, Rodgers could easily play for another 4 or 5 years. But like, there's parts of me where we probably have. I think he could do 2 years with the Steelers and then call it, maybe 3, just depending on how far they can get. Because there's a lot of teams. Even within that division. Bengals are still good. Even though we want to clown on the defense, Bengals are still good. Ravens are going to win the division, and Browns might sneak one or two, just depending on where the game is. Because Cleveland's no slouch, and especially with Joe Flacco, and like, if Aaron Rodgers signs with the Steelers, the AFC North has the best QB division in the whole NFL. Burrow, Lamar. Flacco, I still think Flacco's got it, and then Rodgers. So 2 old guys who are on their way out, but then 2 young guys who can tear it up. And we've seen them tear it up because they've had the stats, they've had the games to back it up. Just they don't have the big accolades of, oh, we won the Super Bowl, because the other 2 quarterbacks that have been stealing the last handful of Super Bowls are Brady, Mahomes, and Hurts. So, oh wait, Hurts only has 1. Who? Stafford, my bad, Rams fans, my bad. So that's kind of my thoughts on if Rodgers goes to the Steelers. I'm not holding my breath, but we'll see. He said he'd sign after OTAs. Whenever OTAs are over, we'll figure it out. But the other story that everybody was talking about, and I can see a lot of people getting upset about these comments, is Joe Flacco was talking about how Can't call me a mentor. Can't, whatever I say, you guys are going to get mad at me. And it's funny to see, not the, just kind of like the approach of like literally kind of the bait questions on, oh, so you don't want to be a mentor? And he's like, well, what if, and just kind of, it kind of just shows, I mean, like if I was ever a reporter, I'd have a little bit more, I want to pose questions like that, but it's like, no, let's not kid ourselves here. Like, we know what the Browns' future looks like. The Browns' future is in Shador's hands or Dylan Gabriel's hands. Or Kenny Pickett could come in and say, no, this is my team. Because it's like, we know Joe Flacco's not the future of the Browns. We know this. Um, we're going to find out the future of the Browns through the preseason, through this season, and probably next season. Like, this isn't something that's just going to solve itself in 2-3 weeks. And the reason why I say that is because when you look, okay, you drafted Gabriel. Obviously, you want to see something out of him. You drafted Shador. Obviously, you want to see something out of him. Now, the reason why they drafted 2 quarterbacks, only the Browns know why they did that, okay? And I'm here to say, like, a lot of the rookie QBs that did get drafted, none of them are going into good situations, which is why they're getting drafted in the first place, because these teams are having quarterback issues. I will say, I think Kyle McCord got drafted into a good situation because Hurts is the starter there in Philly. But no, it's not. It's not Flacco's job to mentor Shador or Dylan Gabriel. It's not, because I liked his comments about, like, if you want to learn something, watch. This is how I will teach you, is watch what I'm doing. It's how Mr. Miyagi, taught Danielson. You know what I mean? Or like when we're looking at, when Jacoby Brissett and Jimmy Garoppolo were there in New England with Tom Brady, was Tom Brady making sure, okay, Jimmy, this is how we're doing stuff? No, like Tom Brady had to focus on, how do I get the Patriots better? When, gosh, there have been a handful of backups in Green Bay to Aaron Rodgers. And then the last one we talk about is Jordan Love, because obviously it did ruffle a few feathers, which is why Aaron ended up leaving. But, like, you look at Hurts, you look at Allen, you look at Jackson, you look at Burrow. It's like some of these guys who still have it, and I think Flacco kind of does have it, but he's on his way out, is it's not Mahomes' job to make sure the backup quarterback's ready. It's really not. And I think with how successful Joe Flacco was with Coach Stefanski, when, he won Comeback Player of the Year, Stefanski won Coach of the Year, and then the Browns were playing some really good football towards the end of the season. He threw, I think, the most touchdowns in like November and December into the playoffs, where they lost to the Texans, but like at one point he was the best quarterback. And if the Browns want to find themselves in a situation like that, Flacco's the guy. Let's not kid ourselves here. And so, we'll see where it goes. Now, if we're sitting in the middle of November and Browns are 2-7, 3-10, then yeah, okay, we know Gabriel or Sanders would be the guy from there on out, because we know. But like, if they're gonna make a playoff push, wouldn't Stefanski want to lean on the guy that got them to the playoffs last time? Because as far as I know, since Baker Mayfield, the best QB that the Browns have had has been Flacco, because he got them to the playoffs. And this is also not to include Watson. This is not to include Kenny Pickett as well, because I think, because when we get through the preseason, again, we'll see how good Gabriel is. We'll see how good Sanders is in the preseason. Once that 53-man roster comes, I don't think the Browns are going to go into the regular season with 4 quarterbacks. I think Gabriel and Sanders are probably going to stay, and then Flacco will be that third QB. So now we have 3 QBs. That leaves that fourth weird outlier, Pickett. What are we going to do with Kenny Pickett? I think Pickett would then go to a team like the Saints, because the Saints have questions at quarterback. I think another team he could go to, maybe Arizona. Yeah, send him to Arizona, because we'll see about Kyler. He could go to the Seahawks. He could go, because I feel like, or he could go to the Jets where Justin Fields is at. Like, because I don't think the Browns, because there's other, you don't need to have 4 QBs on your roster, because not all of them are going to play. But when we prepare for the future, Sorry, this is a long-winded response. Like, I think they'll, either way, whoever the starter is going forward, they're going to learn from sitting behind Joe Flacco. And I'm saying the same thing about Jackson Dart. I'm saying the same thing about Jalen Milroe. I'm saying the same thing about Riley Leonard in Indianapolis. The only quarterback that's being thrown into the fire where it's like, good luck, bub, is Cam Ward with the Titans. Because it's like, okay, he sits behind um, Levis for a little bit, but then Jackson Dart can sit for a little bit. He's got Jameis Winston. He's got Russell Wilson, which what a great opportunity for him to learn to be a better quarterback. And then, for example, Will Howard, if he sits behind Rodgers and Mason Rudolph, what a great opportunity. Like, all these quarterbacks that have been drafted, we're expecting, okay, they're going to be week one starters. When in reality, like, no, why would you want to rush the process? Why would you want to, like, if you want Sanders or Gabriel to be a successor and to be successful in the league, why would you rush it? Why would you rush that process? And so that's my thoughts on that. I don't think the Browns would bring 4 quarterbacks into the regular season and to, like, villainize and, oh, Flacco's just such a terrible dude because he doesn't want to. It's not his job. It's not his job. Like, at this point in time, Gabriel knows how to study film. Sanders knows how to study film. Like, let them get the reps. Let them, take advantage of these OTAs, practice, preseason, and learn something because there might be a game here. And knock on wood, not wishing injury on Joe Flacco, but, like, if Flacco gets, let's say Trey Hendrickson signs a deal, with the whole Bengals drama. But let's say with the Bengals, okay, Browns versus Bengals, Flacco goes out with a pinky or a hand injury or something because Trey Hendrickson hits him just a little harder than normal. Look at that. We turn to our bench. Look at that. Gabriel was ready. Look at that. Sanders was ready. So, like, I don't know. I think the whole thing's blown out of proportion. And it's football. It's football. Those who have played it know you earn everything in football. So that's my huge thoughts on that. Not really shocking, but we'll just see. Browns are pretty fun. It's going to be fun it's going to just be fun how they cover the Browns this year. Just because there's just a lot of just extra stuff. Because, and it's a lot to expect, especially with Cam Ward and the situation he's going into. It's a lot to expect Cam Ward to be successful right away. It's a lot to expect Tyler Shuck for the Saints to be successful right away. Just because it's like these, like, let's look at the Bears, for example. And I sound a little crazy when I say this. The second that Rodgers got injured and he was sidelined at the very beginning of the 2023 season, there was parts of me that was thinking, we knew Caleb Williams was the best quarterback in that draft class. Let's not kid ourselves with Drake May and Jaden Daniels. Like, these guys are good, and they had good seasons, but, like, Caleb was just levels above. He really was. And if you watched in person, you knew Williams was that guy. Like, he was the guy. And I really do think that if the Jets tanked, like, Rodgers is injured, we know he's done for the season. If the Jets tanked, it would have benefited, I think, Williams in the long run to sit behind Rodgers for 2 years, kind of like how Rodgers sat behind Brett, like how Jordan Love has sat behind Rodgers. And, like, it would have benefited. I think it would have benefited a lot more versus what's going to happen to Cam Ward, what happened to Caleb Williams, and Jaden Daniels. Because sometimes we will have huge flashes of, splendid excellence like CJ Stroud, Jaden Daniels, where they are winning NFL Rookie of the Years and stuff. But sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes we have our Johnny Manziels. Sometimes we have our Baker Mayfields, our Sam Darnolds. Because believe it or not, I know Sam Darnold's $1 million man right now. But do we remember how he played on the Jets? Dude was infamously quoted saying, "I'm seeing ghosts out here." So, these guys are getting thrown into the fire, and they're expected to perform and, Like, we're expecting Cam Ward to be elite like Joe Burrow. We're expecting Cam Ward to be elite like Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. And it's like, there are guys who have been in the league just as long as these guys that we're still expecting that. We're still expecting playoff wins from Justin Herbert. We're still expecting playoff wins from yeah, Lamar will win playoff games. He just needs to get over that hump and win a Super Bowl. But like, there's guys that are their age that we're still expecting it from and giving another chance, and they still won't do it. That's just me. And like, not to call out Tua or any shade towards Tua or Herbert, but like, look at their playoff success. It's going to be pretty hard. It's going to be pretty hard to expect Cam Ward to go into Arrowhead and win an Arrowhead when we've seen Herbert hasn't been able to do it, Tua hasn't been able to do it, Josh Allen hasn't been able to do it. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Alrighty. Let's now move to the NHL. Um, that was fun. A little bit of rants on football and the NFL. Okay, with the NHL, some big things that are going on right now is Mitch Marner and his potential trade destinations. What's going on with him is it hasn't gotten loud yet, but I feel like it's going to, which is why I've made the video. I think Mitch Marner is going to go to Detroit or Vegas, or, I mean, on paper, with the roster that the Predators have, I think he'd be good on the Predators. But again, we'll see, because it's only so good on paper versus really what we see once it comes game time. Because we saw how Nashville performed this year. So yeah, I made that video. I think I could see him going to Vegas, but then the second he goes to Vegas, Vegas is like, okay, well, no. Toronto would be like, Vegas, what are you going to give me? And I'd be hard pressed to say we might see. I don't want to see this. I love seeing Jack Eichel in a Vegas uniform, and the fact that I'm even saying this, I feel like I'm cursing it, which I'm sorry, Vegas fans. But what Jack Eichel, and I've made a video. I made a video on this forever ago. But what Jack Eichel showed is winning culture matters. Winning culture tremendously matters, because look at how we've seen Jack. I'll admit I'm a little late to the bandwagon train of Jack Eichel, because me growing up, I'm watching Patrice Bergeron, Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin. Like, I'm not Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, who gives a damn? Austin Matthews, McDavid, Eichel. Like, I don't care. Like, because it's like these guys are in their first year, second year, like third year. Like, I'm watching the real stars here. Okay, I'm watching Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves. I'm watching these guys. I'm watching the Blackhawks be successful. But the thing is and in Buffalo, it's a big story of itself. But like, Buffalo wasn't winning. They really weren't. And we know about like the medical stuff and the medical side of that, but like, the fact that he finally got put on a team that wants to win, because Vegas wants to win. I think out of this 7-8 years they've been a franchise, they've missed the playoffs once. And other than that, they've either gotten to the Western Conference Final or the Stanley Cup. Now I think they've gone out in the first two rounds, and that has happened, I think, in 21, but then also 25. They're there. Just go look at the stats. Like, Vegas is the blueprint on how you build a franchise. But winning culture matters, because the second Jack Eichel leaves Buffalo and he has a little taste of what it's like winning. Look at that. Him and the boys back in 2023, they go all the way. They win the Stanley Cup against Florida. And then even Florida, with where Florida was as a franchise, the fact that since the Boston series, how successful Florida's been, it's phenomenal. Like, as far as I know, like, and as long as I can remember, Florida hasn't been a winning team. They just haven't. But then after getting like just winning that series against Boston, because like, you could chalk it in like that playoffs would have been complete chalk it would have been the Avalanche versus the Bruins because the Bruins had set the record. The Bruins, like, they were just phenomenal at the time. It was their Stanley Cup to lose. Um, and the fact that they just, Florida upset them. Big, huge upset, big 3-1 comeback. Like, it's awesome. It's stinking awesome. But winning culture matters. And obviously, that win and that series win has echoed because since then, they've gotten back to the finals and won it. And now they're about to play in their third straight where they have the chance to go back to back. Like, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool story. And so I think wherever Mitch Marner goes, I think he'll have a big impact. I really do. And I think now we got to see how aggressive he is in these elimination games. And he definitely needs to turn into a player that's not afraid to shoot the puck and not afraid to get a little dirty, in front of the net and, scrums and stuff. Because, I mean, you look at Edmonton. Edmonton gets dirty in the paint. You look at Florida. Like, just, it doesn't surprise me seeing that the Oilers and the Panthers are back in it because there's just, I don't know how to describe it, but, like, it's just a difference. It's like there's like it's a difference on a lot of it has to do with roster. The term dog is used a lot. Like, are these guys dogs? But it's just a different vibe. Where, I mean, we didn't see it from Carolina all series until Game 4, Period 1, where, okay, here we go. Now they're getting after him. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. What else do we got? What else can we talk about? Oh, that's something we can talk about. We have a Stanley Cup final rematch. Yeah, this is a perfect one to segue into. I think, yeah, it's kind of cool and it kind of surprises me, but it's kind of not shocking where it's like, yeah, well, the best tandem in the league is going against the best team in the, like, it's like, okay, that's not too surprising, but I just think we have a good series on our hands. And we have the potential to have a really good series. Hopefully, I will say this: as fun as it was, hindsight is always 2020. Um, After Edmonton had gone down 3-0, the series wasn't fun because it's like we know Florida's going to win this because just it was boring. Like the first 3 games were very boring. Because it's like, oh my gosh, we thought the Oilers would be phenomenal here. McDavid's the best, Draisaitl's the best, Nugent Hopkins, like, this is the team. What the hell? Like, I think the stat of like their top 5 or something went 4 games without scoring a goal. It was some weird stat like that, where it's like, guys, this is the Stanley Cup. Please show up. But then after that Game 4 win, and just dragging them to 5 and then to 6, like it was cool. It was pretty cool the way it played out. But I definitely have a feeling this might go a lot different. Like, series doesn't start in Florida; it starts in Edmonton, which I think is a huge advantage for the Oilers. I do, but I'll be honest, I don't see us leaving Edmonton 2-0. And I don't see them leaving Florida like after Game 4, 3-1. Like, I do think it sounds pretty chalk, but like I do think Edmonton wins Game 1, but then I could see Florida win Game 2 and 3, but then Edmonton win Game 4. You know what I mean? Or I would not be surprised to see Florida. Whoops, you snuck out Game 1 again. Because they've done it before. They did it to Tampa. They did it to Carolina. They didn't do it to Toronto. Toronto came out, which is why everybody's clowning on Toronto, because they were up 2-0. And then they proceeded. yeah, we know how that story ends. But so I think we have a good rematch on our hands. Right now, I'm leaning it. The series is just so even, but back to back. Like we've seen back to back, and or we've seen 3 and 5, where we saw Chicago and how they went through their era. We saw the Penguins go back to back. We saw Florida and their back to back runs. Because like it's like in chunks where the team's really good for a little bit, and like that's how I feel about Florida, where yeah they could very well go back to back now, but the last time we did have a situation like this, it was Red Wings versus Penguins. Red Wings won the first time, and then what happened? Penguins won the second time. So you could look and go, okay, Oilers are going to get revenge, which would just be sweet. It would be so sweet. It'd be McDavid's first, but there's just parts of me where it's like, Florida's a wagon right now. They are an absolute wagon. They know how to win on the road. At home, ooh, not so much. I also wouldn't be surprised too with just how these teams have been playing on the road and at home. I would not be surprised if. So it starts in Edmonton. What if we go to Florida, where the Panthers are up 2-0, but then we leave Florida tied at 2-2 because the road team wins every game? Probably not gonna. Probably no, that's probably not gonna happen. But yeah. Okay, other things that we can talk about is let's talk a little bit about Jake Ottinger. And I'm not going to come off this horse here, and I'm not going to like I really do think it's something serious, and I do think it's something that they'll talk about. But do you think Jake Ottinger requests a trade this offseason? And the reason why like I kind of wanted to talk about this a little bit and give a little bit of insight on it is because with yesterday's game and how Dallas lost in the fashion that they lost, it was Coach DeBoer's fault. Like, I think, they still needed to play 40 plus minutes of hockey, but with how we've seen these playoffs play out, I know the 2 shots he let in. One of them was a power play goal where the defense just let Corey Perry just sit there wide open. Nobody's playing defense on him. So I wouldn't put too much blame on him on that one. But with how much hockey was still left to be played in that game and how we saw the rest of that game play out, like, it's a lot to ask of DeSmith. And coming from, a Penguins fan where we struggled with Tristan Jarry, we struggled with DeSmith, we struggled with Nedeljkovic. It's a lot to ask for DeSmith to just, hey, get in there, elimination game. I know you're ready. No, like at that point, I wouldn't have been, if I was a Dallas fan, I wouldn't be surprised if we lost the game because it's like, well, we're going to the backup goalie already. This early into the game? So, now, did Dallas put up a fight? Hell yeah. Like, dude, Jason single-handedly, with his 2 goals, dragged him back into the game. But then, you got McDavid on a breakaway, rushing for as fast as he freaking goes, like 30 miles an hour right at the goalkeeper's. Yeah, and not a lot of people are going to stop that goal. Hellebuck, with how damn good Hellebuck was this season, he's probably not stopping that. Bobrovsky maybe could have stopped that. I think there's parts of me that do think Ottinger wouldn't have let that go 5-hole. I could be wrong. But I think the loss last night more falls on Coach DeBoer for pulling him so early. Like, it seems silly. And so we'll see where Dallas goes from here. We really will. And I'm interested to see kind of what the buzz and the talk will be on it, because I mean, Ottinger got you there. He got you to the Western Conference Final. Was he playing his best? No. And obviously there were probably conversations, away from cameras and stuff, away from the media, where Coach DeBoer probably did have him on a leash of, okay, you allowed 2 goals. You've been struggling. I'm going to pull you. And the fact that the 2 goals came in the first, some odd, like, maybe that, maybe it's stuff we don't understand. And I feel like if we want to give Ottinger a break, and I said this in my stream, the break should have been Game 4. Whether they go down 3-0, whether they go down 3-1 or tie the series up, what Game 4 should have been is Ottinger's rest day because we saw how it impacted Frederick Anderson for the Canes, where they throw the other guy out there. Okay, if we go down 3-0, whatever, let's just give Anderson a little bit of a rest day. Canes came back, they won the next game, and they extended the season and they gave themselves a little bit more of a shot a little bit later. And guess what? The backup played 40 minutes of damn good hockey, and then the Panthers put 5 on him or something in the last period. But I really think that if they gave Ottinger a break, rest up, we'll let DeSmith play this next game. If we go down 3-1, whatever, let's welcome you back home. When we're on our own home ice, we'll see how this series plays out from there. I think that would have helped, and I think that situation would have been a lot better. But again, these are situations where it's not ideal to put the backup in, and it's not ideal to want to go down 3-1 like you want to win every single game. But there's a lot of hockey. There's still just a lot of hockey left in that game, and to pull them after 2 shots, it's still kind of sitting weird with me. But again, we'll just see the buzz, and we'll see what this off season looks like. I think other things too to talk about it, because Dallas has to figure out how to get over this hump and stuff. You got to look at other guys like Miro Heiskanen, Mikko Rantanen, Jamie Benn. Like, there's a lot of other guys too that did not show up. Mikko had been the best. If Dallas got to the Stanley Cup final, if he had even 2 goals in the Stanley Cup final, dude would have won the Conn Smythe. He would have been the best. He would have been the MVP. But where was he in this series? Edmonton had his number because he had a rough series. So, not all the blame is on Coach DeBoer. And not all the blame is on Jake Ottinger either, because there were other players that needed to show up, and they didn't. So, that's my thoughts on that, is Dallas, they need to get over the hump. And I think what would help get them over the hump is Mitch Marner. I do think, to relay and kind of come back, I do think a Mitch Marner could help this Dallas team. Young presence. And also, with Jake Ottinger too, is he's got to be the guy. I really can't see Dallas, if they do eventually win the Cup, whenever they win the Cup, I don't see Dallas doing it without him. I really think he is the franchise guy, because Hellebuck had a tough series against the Blues, and then he had a tough series against the Stars. That doesn't mean Winnipeg's going to get rid of him. He's still the guy moving forward, because I'd rather have a Hellebuck than Tristan Jarry or Alec Nedeljkovic, or because you think about, look at the Caps, for example. If Washington Capitals, now Thompson did really good. Logan Thompson did have a good season. And Ovi, we know the historics of Ovi this year by catching the great one. But let's say the Caps had Mitch Marner and Connor Hellebuck. I think the Caps are getting let's say she didn't have back problems and he was playing too. I think the Caps are getting to the Eastern Conference Final, and I think they can give Florida a run for their money. So it comes down to a lot of these Stanley Cup finals is we want to look at first lines versus first line, second line, third line. A lot of it too, when we overreact and overlook at everything, some of it just simply put comes down to, hey, who's your goalkeeper? Okay, everybody gets past all these lines you had. Who's the last guy? Who's the last standing, line of defense? The keeper. Who's one of the better keepers in the league? Jake Ottinger, Darcy Kemper, Frederik Andersen, Sergei Bobrovsky, Stuart Skinner right now, even though we want to clown on him. I'm trying to think. Who's some other really good? Andrei Vasilevsky, even though the Lightning went out sad. I think with the Canes, someone brought this up the other day on Spittin' Chicklets, is if the Hurricanes kept Jake Gensel, Hurricanes might have beaten Florida. But again, we saw how Tampa did against Florida, and Tampa had Jake Gensel. So, if you put Jake Gensel, Mitch Marner, and Connor Hellebuck on the Caps. Oh my, oh my gosh! They there's no reason they shouldn't. There's no reason they shouldn't win the Stanley Cup. Um, but again, that's a bizarre world. We'll see how trade deadlines go this offseason. Um, any other? Oh yeah, because we talked about Pete DeBoer. Um, I don't think he's going to get fired either. I think if Dallas fired Coach DeBoer, it'd be a huge overreaction. And like it, nah, no reason to get. And he's a damn good coach too. Like Coach DeBoer is a damn good coach. Did he make a whoops the other day by not subbing Ottinger out and losing the series? Yes, but again, you got to take that one, you know, and they'll Dallas will take it in stride because Dallas has been in three of the last. No, they've been in three straight. Never mind. Yeah, yeah. Three straight. They've been in three straight Western Conference Finals. Let's not kid ourselves and blow this out of proportion when Dallas is going to be in next year's Western Conference Finals as well. Who are they going to be playing? I lean towards Edmonton again. I'd lean towards Vegas. I'd lean towards the Avalanche. Or hell, who knows? Maybe losing to Dallas as President Cup Trophy winners. That puts a little spark under Winnipeg, and Winnipeg gets back next year. Like I don't know. Um, who knows? Who knows? A wild card team. Let me think here. So what's a wild card? So St. Louis. I don't think St. Louis is going anywhere. Like I think St. Louis is going to be good this next year too. I could see them. I could see them getting a little farther next year. So like St. Louis versus Dallas. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. All right. Anything else? Oh, okay. One more. One more. We got one more. Um, it's time to give Sergei Bobrovsky some flowers because I definitely think he should be in talks for the Conn Smythe. Um, the reason why I'm bringing this one up is because we have seen he could have won it last year, and we saw how in last year's Stanley Cup final he had a shutout, and then Rodriguez was playing big, but then towards game 5, 6, and 7, no 4, 5, 6, like the last handful of games with just how McDavid was playing at a just different level. Um, that's what eventually got him the Conn Smythe, which I don't know how often the Stanley Cup MVP goes to the losing team because I mean the year before it went to Marchessault and he was with Vegas, and then the year before that I believe it went to Cale Makar and he was on the Avalanche, so of course they'd give it to the defensive guy because sometimes it either goes to your star defenseman or your captain, you know. Because I know Crosby has one, but I know Gino has one too, and Gino's kind of like, you know. So I'm sitting here going, you know what? From some of the series and the games where Bobrovsky has just struggled, where, you know, he's going down 2-0 against Toronto, and Toronto's finding out his numbers. But the way that he's just kind of locked in, and when you can look at how these playoffs have played out where it's Anderson versus Bobrovsky, and now it's going to be Skinner versus Bobrovsky. Like, he's just been able to be dialed in and help his team with low goal totals, and being able to go up 3-0 against Carolina and then slamming the door shut in 5, or with how you know with how the Toronto series went, where after being embarrassed they found a way to lock back in, and being down 2-0 found a way to get back into the series with how phenomenal he was there. And now where we turn towards, you know, the Edmonton series with the Stanley Cup final, just statistically with how well he's been doing versus how he started, like, we got Officer Bob on duty right now. And so I think it'd be really cool if he finally gets the attention and the flowers he deserves of, you know, he is one of the top 3 goaltenders in the league. And so it'd be really cool to see Florida go back to back and in one of these games, because it's going to have to happen in this series, whether Florida's up 3-1, down 3-1. Series is tied 2 apiece. Bobrovsky's going to have to steal a couple, and he's probably going to have to steal one in Florida, and then he's probably going to have to steal one in Edmonton, and that will be probably, I would say, where the series turns, where if Edmonton has the chance to go up 3-1 in the series or win the series 4-2 or something like that, where, okay, Edmonton's going to put 2 together here and they're going to win the series 4-2. Like, he pitches a shutout. If you know what I'm trying to say here, where like when something huge like going up 3-1 or capturing the series, Sergei Bobrovsky just plays out of his mind, plays on his head, has huge 30-plus save game, and look at that. They pitched a shutout, and that was the pivotal piece that, okay, now the series is even, or now Florida's up 3-2 in the series, and they eventually win and seal out the series. So, I don't know. Like, I think Bobrovsky definitely deserves his flowers. I would love to see him win a Conn Smythe. And that's a weird prediction that I wanted to just write out right here, because I think it's possible, and I think it can be done. All right. Anything else? Let me see. No, I think we're good. So let's go over here. Let me check the chat. I haven't checked the chat in a minute. All right, here we go. All right. Hello, chat. Here we go. All right, to the end. Here we go. What's good? Nothing, man. We're chilling. The Yankees been having a weird season. Yeah, I want to say the Yankees season. Thanks for the comment. I will admit I don't know how the Yankees have been doing as of late. Like when the hold on, let me refresh this. Wait, are the Phillies and the Brewers playing back to backs? Probably. Oh, hold on, let me see here. That game's going to start at... Oh, it was the Reds and Cubs who played earlier. I was like, I swore the Phillies played today. No. I'm thinking of the Reds. Whoops. The Yankees, as far as I know this year, their biggest story has been about the torpedo bats. But when we were getting towards the end of the end, like we won the Super Bowl. March Madness is over. The MLB season is starting, and like the NHL and the NBA seasons are ending. I will admit, when the first 2-3 weeks, like the first month of baseball, I was heavily involved, where the Giants are playing good, the Dodgers are good, the Phillies are good, Cardinals are doing pretty good, they're doing okay, Padres, because at one point, after 15 games, I think the Padres like one of the best teams in the league. We were keeping track with records, we were keeping track with like the trajectory of how teams were doing with like win streaks. Like I think, someone had a win streak, and it wasn't Minnesota's win streak. I think it was the Giants? I think the Giants had like a really good win streak or something. But all this to say, like the second the NBA playoffs started and the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs started, I stopped watching baseball. I was like, well, nope, we're gonna get sucked into this, and this is gonna take up all our time, and it did. I wanted to cover the UFL too. I haven't made any UFL videos, and it's not because I don't care. It's just like, truthfully, right now the biggest stories are what's going on the ice and on the hardwood. Like, I'll say it this way, Shohei could have a walk-off tonight, or Bryce Harper could have a walk-off or something. But what would be a bigger story in the sports world would be if the Knicks complete their 3-1 comeback. Like, that would be a bigger story to follow, and it'd be a little bit funner to follow, because it's, 3-1 comeback in the Eastern Conference Finals versus some baseball games that happened towards the end of May before the Dodgers had one of their historic worst June and July where they missed the playoffs. But do I think the Dodgers are going to miss the playoffs? Hell no. They're too good. Their roster's way too good. Dodgers are probably going to be one of the final. I think it'd be NL or bust, like NL championship or bust. Like if they get eliminated in the first, if they get eliminated in the first round again, or the second round, like how it was a couple years back when because the Diamondbacks then beat the Twins or whichever. Like yeah, that year, oh it'd be a failure. It'd be a big failure. I don't know how Dodger fans would, because they shouldn't. Like they just from top to bottom they have the best. They have the best record. They have the best roster, not record. But then also acquiring, Diaz from the Reds, acquiring another closer. That's gonna help. Plus also, let me look at the roster real quick. See, they're first in the NL West right now. They're 34-22, but they have the best. Don't they have the best bullpen? Like they got Clayton Kershaw, they got Dustin May, they got okay, where's the IL? Where's the injury? I know they got Glass now, don't they? Yeah, they got Tyler Glass now, and I know he's injured a little bit. They got Blake Snell. Like this team, the only team that's in the Dodgers' way, just like the Thunder, the only team that's in the Thunder way is themselves. So that's my thoughts on that. Okay, let's see what else we got. What else do we got here? All right. Let's go here. Let's check the chats. Okay. All right, people on the shorts end, we're gonna do a hard out here, but I'm glad you guys are here. Be sure to hit the like button so you know where to come back. Um, we'll do, we might do a reaction later tonight. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this Yankees Dodgers games go, or if there's any other sports news, because it is a Friday, so it might be a little quiet. All right, people. See you later. All right. Now, let me double check. Let me sweep through ESPN one more time. Nope. Nothing. No, like, breaking news. I mean, if you want to know about... Yeah, there's no breaking news. No. We'll talk about free agent. Yeah, they're going to do their free agency stuff for the NHL. They're going to do their power rankings for baseball, but we don't need to do like a nightly stream tonight, especially because there's no basketball game until tomorrow. But we don't need to do another nightly stream on the Thunder, this or that, because it's like we know about the Thunder. We know about them. Next time we see them, guess what? It's gonna be Game 1 of the NBA Finals when they potentially beat the Knicks. No, but I think the Thunder. It's hard for me to say. Now, I think whoever the Thunder play, I do think that series is going to be close. Yes, they blow out teams by like 50 points every night, but like I have a feeling that the Thunder might lose 1 or 2 games at home in the finals. Like, hell, if the Nuggets can do it, I think, and we wrote the Nuggets off and the Nuggets weren't good. So, I mean, if the Nuggets can do it, I think the Pacers can do it because the Pacers can win on the road. The Knicks can win on the road. Like, the finals is going to be good, whoever it is, whether it's the Pacers versus the Thunder, whether it's the Knicks versus the Thunder. The finals will be a lot more entertaining and a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not enjoyable, but there might be a little bit more parity. No, maybe parity's not, because like when we looked at Dallas versus Dallas versus Boston last year, we kind of knew Boston was going to win it because Boston had a better season. They had a better roster. Like it was kind of okay. Can Luka and Kyrie show up? Like can this two man front court? I mean, yeah, I'm totally disregarding everybody else like Lively, who had a pretty good series but it just like I was rooting for the Mavericks, but like we kind of knew writing was on the wall. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Okay, I don't think we have anything else. Any other crazy things to talk about? Yeah, we'll end it. We'll end it there, people. We'll end it there, though. Thanks for all the subs. I see we gained a couple subs this stream, so thank you for that. Let me know. Let me know any other sports takes you guys got. Be sure to hit the like button so you know where to come back to for sports. I may, just because it's Friday, we may be doing a gaming stream later tonight, just because it's Friday and everybody and their dog right now is playing Battlefront. So we might do one of those. I don't know, but I hope you guys had a good stream. I hope you guys enjoyed what you saw. This was a good stream. This was a fun stream, and I want to keep doing prediction shows. Like this is kind of a prediction show, where if Game 6 was tonight between the Hurricanes and Panthers, okay, let's talk about it. Let's dive into it. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that, guys. Though, thank you for watching. I will see you in another stream.